So I really feel like this comes down from I'm not good enough. Like even if I had success, I would just lose it.
I have my fellow category king, Bill Allen, on the line. He is with 7-figure flipping. He is an entrepreneur, a best-selling author, and a freaking total powerhouse. So what we thought, so Bill, go back and look at a previous episode that Bill is on. I'll put it in the show notes what that episode is, so you know. Go back and watch that episode. But the cool thing was is that after the episode, like Bill and I become really good friends. It's like he's the yin to the yang. He's like the male version of me. I'm the female version of him, but he's way more hardcore than I am, to be honest with you. And so the good conversation happened after the podcast turned off. And so I was like, we're just going to talk right now, and you're going to be able to listen to what a multi-million-dollar business owners talk about in the form of marketing, what's working and what's not. And I thought that this would just be super, super fun. And so whatever comes from it, comes from it. Bill's a super mindset guy. Bill, just tell them a little bit about yourself before we get going.
Sure. So my story is like military story. I was a W-2 employee for the Navy. I worked for the Navy for like almost 15. I did 15 years of active duty, but in there, I kind of like found entrepreneurship. So I started a real estate business, investing business, started flipping houses on the side while I was still flying full time, and was doing like one house a year until I found a mastermind group. So I found a mastermind group, paid $25,000 to join this mastermind group, and exploded my business. I went from doing one house a year. I did 67 the first year, then 135, then 187, then over 200 houses every year after that. So, and for anybody that's listening that's an investor, we would do somewhere between 12 houses, like 12 actual flips to like 50 actual flips a year. And the rest were wholesale deals. So we were just like the middleman where we would put a house under contract and then assign it to another investor. So about 80% of our deals were like that. And then 20% were actual flips where we're like going in, doing all the work, selling the house at the end. And so built a business, and I eventually had the opportunity to buy the company that I joined the mastermind group from. So a longer story, but it's been pretty cool. Now I run the mastermind group full time. I brought a partner in my investing business. I still am involved there, but I really love the coaching, consulting mastermind group that we have. It's just so cool.
He does too. So everyone, to put this into perspective, okay? So he was, wanting to get into flipping, and he tells a story about asking his dad if he should invest in this program. And I want him to tell that again because I think it's really, really important. But right now in real estate, it's kind of changing a little bit, Bill. Just like the market's switching a little bit. It's not as crazy of a seller's market as it was, right? It was so crazy. It's kind of with interest rates changing and all that. It's kind of, we're seeing a shift. In some markets actually pretty quickly where we're noticing, wow, it's not such a crazy seller's market anymore. But anyway, it's been crazy getting listings over the past several years. It's been just a super, super seller's market. And Bill, if you think that it's hard to get listings right now, Bill's doing 100+ off-market properties. So finding listings to sell that are off-market. If you think that getting sellers are hard or getting buyers into a property is hard, finding homes off market to sell and flip is harder than any of the things we just talked about. So it's a very, very difficult skill, and he's managed to just crush it and do super, super well. So
let me put that into perspective for them.
Yeah.
So probably like 96 to 97% of all transactions that are done out there in the United States are done with a realtor. I think we can all agree with that. I've bought and sold around 850 houses in the last few years, 800 to 850 houses in the last like 6 years now. And only 10 of those have been like from the MLS. Everything else has been direct to seller. And we usually buy our houses at like 50 to 60 cents on the dollar. So if the realtors that are listening think that you're competing, like I'm not only am I competing with all the other investors, I'm also competing with you, and you guys control like 97% of the marketplace. And so I'm 3% of the marketplace. So 3% of the marketplace in houses that sell to like on a distressed market to somebody like me. And then I have to compete with everybody else. So it is a bit of a challenge, but like, I still don't think it's easy to compare. Like, it's not an apples to apples comparison either. So I realize the other thing is like, we don't have a ton of like high caliber investors that are out there. And as realtors, there's a ton of realtors, right? It's a low barrier to entry. It's very easy to get. There's not a lot of like really high caliber, like the top 1%. So like, if you look at you guys as realtors, you guys that listen to this podcast, I'm sure like the top 1 or 2% of realtors out there, my community is like the top 1 or 2% of real estate investors. So if you think about that like that, we're very much, it is a challenge it's so much easier to like, oh, I'll just list your house. Like if I could just list your house, and I really have to fight with my team and my staff and even myself in the very beginning as a licensed agent in Florida, to not just say I'll list it. Like we really have to just say like, look, I'd much rather buy it than list it. Like this is why I want to buy it. But by no means are we beating up the agents. Are we saying that you guys aren't good at what you do? Because you're absolutely amazing. And usually the first thing that I say when I walk into a house is, why don't you just sell, why do you want to sell a beautiful house like this? Why don't you just put it on the MLS? Why don't you just rent it out? Why don't you do this? And they're convincing me on why they should sell it to me for cash off market. I look at us like a pawn shop. You walk into a pawn shop with your grandmother's diamond ring, you know that you're walking in there not getting full price for your diamond ring, but you're trading the equity that you have for speed and ease of transaction in the cash that day. So that's what we provide.
And convenience. And do you tell people that with that analogy with the whole pawn shop thing? Yeah,
for sure. And then the other one I like to use is like, people talk about wholesaling all the time. I'm like, look, everybody wholesales everything. Like everything is wholesaling. There's wholesaling everywhere. So you go into the supermarket and every single thing that you pick up. So we have a farm here in Tennessee. You go pick up a head of lettuce. The Kroger people, or I don't know, what do you guys have? Vons over there. Vons, they don't go to the farm and go pick the lettuce. Like there's somebody that buys the lettuce from the farm, drives it over to the Vons, and then sells it to Vons. And there's a wholesaler in the middle. Like we have the same thing in real estate. So people always, especially like a lot of realtors, beat us up for that. And it's just like, look, we're providing a marketplace and the flippers need us and the landlords need us because we're going out paying all the marketing dollars up front to go find all these opportunities to then figure out how to make money in the marketplace.
Yes. Oh, I don't hold it against you guys. I'm actually shocked that people would actually want to sell that way. But you're like, hey, the market exists, right? The market definitely exists. It's a much smaller market, but it does exist. And it's just a matter of finding them. So, I remember you telling me, hey, you'll go into a market and somebody will say, oh, it's so difficult, so hard here. There's no off market properties. And you're like, yeah, they are. So, and we're not going to talk about that right now. But the bottom line is that you need to be willing to do something about whatever it is that you're saying can or can't be done. It all has to do with what you're willing to do or what you're willing not to do. And one of the things, if everyone knows, I love real estate agents. I love lenders. That's why I love entrepreneurs. That's why I have this podcast. That's why, I'm do what I do. But inevitably, and I'd love to hear your stake on this, but so many people say they want the thing. They want the riches, they want success, they want to have money, they want, to be in the top, 1-3% in their field, but they're not willing to do what it takes. I'm just amazed about how few amount of people are willing to do the thing. I'll give you an example. Today I had a challenge and there was over 1,200 people signed up and 267 people actually showed up, right? And we've been able to prove after 5 days for 1 hour a day, typically about 50% of the people only stay till the end. Like 50% do not even stay. And it's not like it's boring. We get people results literally during the 5-day challenge. I'm a digital marketing expert to say like, absolutely everyone needs to be marketing online right now. And I've sold thousands of homes. So you'd think like agents and lenders would do whatever it took to get there. They're not. So let's talk about that, like the success and being willing to do the thing and the consistency factor and all that. Because you're like, Bill, you are like, he's like a unicorn, everyone. The guy is like a workaholic. I mean, he's a worker. He does what it takes.
Well, so there's one thing in there when we say like workaholic, I want to be careful because I have a problem shutting it off. I do. So I have a problem shutting it off. I think all entrepreneurs do. And I think it really comes down to those like Tony Robbins' 6 human needs type stuff, where all of these needs are being met by what we do. And it's really exciting and we get addicted to it. So I'm totally addicted to work. However, that doesn't mean that I work 24 hours a day. In fact, this morning I got up at 4:30. I went and did an Orange Theory class from 5 to 6. And then at 6 o'clock, I went to pick up the farmer that helps me with my farm. We drove over to another friend's farm, I drove a tractor 20 miles an hour on the road, like on the main highway for like 9 miles. So I was like, I was the guy holding up traffic at like 7 a.m., 6:30 in the morning. And then I was on the farm. I got my kids up, made them breakfast, went to the farm, worked on the farm for like an hour and a half. Then I went to an office to meet with a local person, a local entrepreneur, talked to her for like a half an hour, did a marketing video for her inside of our farmers market group. And then I came to work around 11 o'clock. So like, I've been at it for like 5 hours before that, but I haven't really done anything for my business. Then I started making a couple videos, did this podcast. So when I work really, I'm really intense when I work. Like I work.
You're intense with everything.
but I find a lot of people, they can't get done the amount of work in the same amount of time that I can. I can basically double their output by being focused, like laser focused on what I do. So when I hear workaholics or people that work hard, I think like, oh, maybe, okay, they work like 16-hour days or something, and people aren't willing to put that in. So I don't think that's necessary for everybody that's listening. So that's not what Krista or I are talking about right now. We're talking about the quality of work that you put in and the amount of effort that's put in. So if you want to be successful, like you got 1,200 people sign up for a challenge, 270 or so showed up. The other 1,000 people are just looking for like the easy button. They won't actually do any work, like no work. Like, can you just email me the recording and I'll watch it at my leisure? You will never watch it.
Which I never will.
They never watch it. No. And so I think the thing that I keep coming back to, and we talk about this a lot, and I think about this a lot, like, what is the formula for success in any industry? I think step one is you have to, like, people talk about this deep-rooted why, right? This why. And I think you have to be like, there has to be some pressure. Like there has to be something. And so step one, I think, is like, there's gotta be some reason like why you're doing this thing, but that why comes from pressure. The people that I see that are really successful, they're either like so determined that they will do the thing and they're incredibly competitive, which is where I fall. I fall in this like super competitive. I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it done. And then you've got the other people who are like, they're in so much pain, or they have a need that has to be met, or a longing of some sort, that they don't have a backup plan. And so what I feel like, people come into our community, same thing. And it's like, I try to pick like, okay, this person's going to be awesome. This person's not, this person's going to struggle. And I'm usually wrong like 50% of the time. What I find is like, people have this plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. And they like have a full-time job, and they like their job, and they're making a bunch of money. Like, you know what? I'd really like to try to be a realtor maybe and make a little bit extra money. And maybe this will be my full-time thing, maybe not. They like dip the toe in, they check it out, and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to my nice, cushy job that I don't mind. It's not horrible. I don't love it, but it's not horrible. So I'm just going to keep doing that thing for another couple years, and then maybe I'll try it again. And like, those are the people that I feel like they'll never make it as an entrepreneur doing the thing that they want to do, even though like underneath all of that, they're not even willing to take the time to do a little bit of the work that it takes to uncover this like amazing, solid bar of gold that's down there underneath a little bit of pain. Mm-hmm. But the person who's like, I quit or I got fired last week, I don't know how I'm going to make my rent next month, I got to do this thing. And they buy Krista's course and they jump in, they go all in, like all in, right? That person is like going to make diamonds out of the pressure that's created in there. So that I've seen that time and time again, is the person who's just like, if this works, great. If not, I'm okay. That person like never does
settle. It's like so many people are willing to settle, and they're so afraid. They're just afraid of like the unknown. They're afraid of the failures that they know they're going to make. They're afraid of, what if it doesn't work? I'm like, what if it does? I was just thinking, what if it does work, right? I mean, I remember.
And you know what? They could be afraid of that. Like, honestly, they might be afraid of that.
That's something, okay, I don't understand. People say, I'm afraid of success. I don't understand that, because I can't even teach it or even really speak to it, because I don't have that. And I would love to be able to find someone that could help me speak to the fear of success, because I don't understand it enough to even help people. And I know so many people have that fear. Can you speak to that or not?
A little bit. So, you know, a lot of times, so I see it in people who are like afraid to talk about what they're doing until they've done the thing that they're trying to do. Like, they want to be an expert before they can talk about what they're doing. And so I think that we have a lot of faith-based folks in my community, a lot of Christians. And what I find is there's a struggle there. There's a struggle with making a lot of money or what it looks like. And I really feel like this is what other people are projecting on them a lot of times. So I've had to have these conversations with quite a few Christians in my community of like, well, like, how much money do I need? Like, I really don't need this much money. If I'm successful, then what is that? What am I going to become? Because my whole life I've served God. I've wanted to do all of these things for him. But now if I have this abundance and all of this money, and I'm going out there searching for this and success and growth and all these things, then it might move me further away from him. And so I don't know if that's what is in your community. In my community, that's where a lot of that stems from. And so that conversation has to go to a different place.
They've kind of been saying it's sort of worldly to make a lot of money, right? It's worldly and you don't need, that's kind of what the feeling is?
Yeah, very much like, okay, if I have all this abundance and this money and am I doing it for me and my ego and selfishness and all of those things versus like, I want to do everything in this image of God. And so I see that we have to talk to that. I had a conversation like 3 years ago with one of our members, Jennifer, and I still remember that conversation. It's burned in my head. I was like, I think you need to answer this for you. Like, if you do have more money, you do have more success, what would that mean for you? Would it move you away from God? Would you stop going to church? Would you stop praying? Would you stop doing all these things? Or would it just make you more abundant? Would it like
you could
empower
donate more,
you even
you
more?
could give more,
Totally.
you could, it's kind of like people, I'm going off tangent here, but people will be like, oh, like, I want to be able to donate to my church, or I want to be able to donate my time to my kids' schools. But they're afraid of, like, if they would just take a little bit of time right now working on themselves and their business, and maybe not being able to do it as much right now, so that later on they could do it so much more, right? Instead of donating 1,000 a month or 100 a month, you could donate 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, right? Or you could do, instead of doing an hour every 2 weeks, you could do like 3 hours a week, because you get yourself in that position to do well. So I understand the idea of the whole religious aspect of fear of success. What is the other one? Because I don't think everyone is always about religion. I don't understand it.
So I think the other side is I don't necessarily know that it's fear of success, but it's I've never been successful before. It's almost like the lottery winner. The way that I look at this is if you think of it like a thermostat, like we have a thermostat, right? Mm-hmm. And so if my thermostat is set, just like in your house, your thermostat's set at 70. If you want to crank it up, what it's going to do, it's going to, you turn it up hotter. It's going to kick on air conditioning and kind of cool it down, right? Same thing if I turn it down cooler, it's going to kick on the heat and it's going to move it back up. So all of our thermostats set. So going from a place that you've never seen success in anything in your life. So I see people that are afraid of that. They're like, you know what? I'm not good enough. Everything stems from two things. Tony talks about this a lot. I'm not good enough or I won't be loved. So I really feel like this comes down from I'm not good enough. Like even if I had success, I would just lose it. Even if I made a bunch of money, I would just sabotage it. Even if I did hire a couple people that went well, like I would screw it up. Like I'm going to screw up my whole life. Why should I think that I'm any different? And I don't know if it's always the screw up thing, but it might be this success. That word to them might have this deep rooted pain, this wound. I take everything back to like this hero's journey. Like there's the essence of who we are. And then we have this identity that we've created around ourselves based on our past history, wounds, struggles, issues, trials, all these things. What we've been told about ourselves, the experiences that we've had, everything creates the identity. The good thing about our identity is it protects us from pain. So their identity is wrapped around, I'm not successful. Like I'm not a millionaire. I'm not going to go make $1 million a year. Krista can do that, but I can't do that. Like, it's just not who I am. And we have to kill off like old identities, and we have to go through pain of these old wounds. We have to actually like pass through that to become the person that we need to become. And so I don't know, maybe some of that rambling made sense, but inside of there, this identity piece, like everybody's identity is different. So for me and you to try to understand what's holding somebody else back, it could be 20 years of identity struggles, and it could be pain from middle school or high school, or what they grew up with, all of these things, what they look at as money. Like, what do they see money as? Like, how do they define money? How do they feel about that? And I had to go through a lot of this.
We're raised like, oh, money's bad. And, successful people that have a lot of money are a-holes or whatever it is.
Yeah. Who'd they have to screw over to get that?
Yes.
That house, that car, like what What did they have to do? Or like, so I remember there's two very fundamental things in my business career that have stopped me from growth. And I remember hitting a wall and needing somebody to help me through it. So the first one was in my real estate investment business. And it was my first call with my mentor, paid $25,000, joined the program and was like, all right, you got the systems. Tell me what to do. I'm flipping one house a year. I want to flip 12 houses a year. That was my goal the first year. And he said,
the first year?
67. We did 67.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
So, and that was in about 8 or 9 months. But I'm on this call and he's like, all right, tell me about your business. Tell me about what you want to do. I was like, well, I'm flying all day. So I drive to the job site. I stop at the job site. Then I go to work and then I come back and then I check in and obviously people don't show up or do anything while I'm gone. And then I get angry. I do a little bit of work in the house. And then I go home and I have a newborn baby. And then I repeat that every single day. And then on the weekends, I'm working at the house. So I can only get one house done every year right now. I want to get 12 done a year. She's like, okay, so you want to do one a month? I said, yeah, one a month. He's like, all right, well, how are you going to do that? I was like, I don't know. You have this, you sold me the thing. You have the secret. Give me the secret. And he's like, well, I think you need to find some help. I think you need to hire somebody. And I was like, nope. I said, it's my only non-negotiable is I'll never hire anybody. It's just going to be me. I don't be responsible for anybody's food on their table, anybody's salary, any of that stuff. I've never had to pay somebody in my entire life to do anything for me. I mow my own grass. I do my own work on my own car. No, I'm not ever hiring somebody. And he's like, all right, well, I mean, you're having trouble doing one a year right now. So how are you going to do 12 when you're by yourself? And so I left that call and thought about it. And I came back like a week or two later and finally said, fine, I'll hire somebody to tell me what to do. I'll do it. That was me. And there was a lot more like internal turmoil, conversations that had to happen, mindset shifts that had to happen, just accepting the fact that I'm going to be responsible for somebody else's pay. And that's the one thing that got me to the next level. Like that thing, that decision, me saying yes to that, me opening myself up to failure, having to hire somebody, fire somebody, pay somebody, not pay somebody, like all the things that come with that, raises, other people's, their kids have to eat based on the money that I'm supplying. Freaking out.
Make enough to do it. But it's like, and the funny thing is too, is you hire a mentor, he's telling you what to do and you're telling him no. Like, yeah, it's crazy to me. Nope.
That's the stupidest thing ever, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not going to listen to this person I hired.
That guy did like $3.5 million that year and had a team of like 20. And he was basically working 2 hours every 2 weeks. And I was like, I want to do that. He's like, all right, this is the path to it. And I was like, but that's what happens. And that's okay. I think that's okay in the beginning. Like there's some, but it didn't take me a year or 2 years or 3 years to finally say, all right, I'll listen to you. Like I didn't know any better. I wasn't doing something else. I was just like, I don't know if I can do that. And I think that's the struggle that we go to. That's kind of the bridge that we have to build. We have to accept the fact that what we're doing or have done in the past is not working for us. This other person that I trust that I've hired, it is working for them. Let me figure out how that can work for me. Like, okay, I'm going to start listening. I'm going to start saying yes. That's a whole nother conversation. But the fact that like me saying yes to hiring somebody, and by the way, now I'll pretty much hire somebody to do anything, like anything. Like, and I probably have 50 people working for me in some form or fashion right now, from my farm to the multiple companies that I have to part-time people that come in to virtual assistants. It's crazy. I'm just like,
I thought about you this weekend when I went to the farmer's market. I was like, oh, Bill's probably having his farmer's market this weekend. I went to one, then I was like, yeah, you were on my mind. So
I was, and I loved it.
Did you love it?
Oh, I loved it. I love it.
I was like, I wonder if they're making, they know how much they're making, because you said you're tracking, you know.
I track every single dollar now. It's awesome. But I run it like a business. We should run it like a business. The other people are like, I don't know how much I made this week. I was like, it could be a problem. So the second one for this business, 7-figure flipping business, that I had to change my identity was, I said, I'm not ever going to be the person that does the marketing and sales for this company. I don't ever want to sell from stage. I don't want to get on I don't want to go to a conference, and I don't want to sell something to somebody. I don't even want to sell somebody the $25,000 thing that I bought. And I just was it was internal fear of what people were going to think or say about me, that I have to get up on stage and sell something. And I'll tell you what, it took a lot of work and coaching and mindset shifts to now get to the point where I don't care. Like if somebody's out there going, oh man, this guy's selling me really hard. You're right. I am. And I'm doing it for your own good, because what I have is amazing. And when I sell it to you, I feel great about it. I smiled from ear to ear because I know I'm going to change your life if you let me. Right.
Well,
And you're
no,
doing the
not
same
even that.
thing.
If they'll just do the thing, it's like,
Well,
like
that's
you,
what I mean.
I
Like,
always say, we're not
if you
changing
let
your
me, like,
life.
let me
Yeah, help you.
listen,
But
pay
they have to
attention,
do it.
do it.
They have to be the one to do it. It's like you
Totally.
can give anybody whatever, but they have to be willing to do it. It's so funny too, because like what we'll notice in our programs is that around the 5-month mark is when we start to see people trying to get out of the thing, right? Like they haven't, and then we'll look back, they've not done the things. Like, okay, so you want out of this, so you're saying it's a money thing, but you haven't done any of the things. Like, nope, I'm not going to let you because you didn't do any of the things you're supposed to do. And now all of a sudden it's like, you hired me because you wanted me to help you. I wouldn't be doing my job if I let you out. Like, you got to do the thing. And I want people to understand, if you want your life to be different, you've got to change what you're doing and literally take 1000% extreme ownership as to where you're at right now. It's not the market's fault. It's not Ukraine's fault. It's not COVID's fault. It's 1000% extremely on you to get the life that you want. But most people are not willing to put in the work. I mean, success is so easy because most people aren't willing to do what it takes to be successful. You've got to be consistent. You've got to keep going and understand that every little tiny thing that you do. So for example, now I'm on a tangent, but like people that are working for something, they don't see the results right away, right? Like, let's just say you're doing something, and it's kind of like when you plant a seed. You're watering the seed for like, weeks and weeks, maybe months before you ever see the seed start to sprout, right? But like by you watering the seed, if you didn't water the seed, nothing would happen. So when you're building a business, let's just say, in one week you're starting to create video content. The next week you're making up your marketing plan. Then you're doing like a marketing video. Then you're working on your marketing presentation. Then you're like all these things you're doing and you don't see the results from them, but really the results are happening. They just aren't, you're not seeing them. And if you don't do those things, when the opportunity actually comes up to actually get the business, if you don't do the things, all the little things that it took for you to get to have that chance to convert that client, you're never going to be able to convert that client because you didn't do all the things beforehand, right? So even though you don't see the results of the harvest right away, it doesn't mean that it's not ready to sprout. Like it's already sprouting. It's sprouting as you do it, but most people are not willing. They don't see the results immediately. They stop. They quit.
Yeah, I think the biggest trick that I've learned recently is you have to see the result before you take the action. So like the interesting thing for me, if I think about your people right now, like when they jump into the program, they saw the result. That's why they joined, right? So you're talking about these people that 5 months down the road. So they saw the result. They said, okay, I can do that. Like Krista can do it. I can do it. Her students can do it. I can do it. And they saw the result. And then what happened was time went by, right? And they didn't take the action to change their beliefs and to see more results. And so when you don't take the action, what happens is that the results that you saw in that moment at that event or wherever you were start to fade.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't regularly see the results in your head and just say, that's my place. That's why like vision boards and things that you look at on a regular basis. Like for me, I'm buying an airplane, like really expensive, amazing airplane. And I can't wait. It gets here. I think it's going to get here this week.
Bill,
I think it gets here this week.
I'm always like, I wonder how big Bill's airplane is. Like, how big is it? An airplane or is it more like a jet? Like I see him all the time. I think about you. It's so funny now.
Yeah. So, well, you can play comparison when you fly with me, but like in my mind, it's like, I can see it. It's in the hangar. Like when I made the decision that I'm going to do that thing, like I can see it in the hangar, like it's sitting there. I can see myself walking up, putting my bags in, taking my family on this trip, going like way higher than my plane right now goes, going twice as fast as the plane goes. Instead of taking 3.5 hours to get to Disney, we're there in an hour and a half. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I cannot wait for this. Like it's already done. Like it's done. And so now,
I remember when you sent me a picture and you're like, I'm buying this jet.
Yeah.
In front of it. Yeah. It's already mine. I'm like, oh gosh, that's right.
That's it. And that's what I've realized, that early on, I was somehow doing a version of that, but not to the point now where you and I are. It's like, it doesn't take a lot of work for us to act. And if what we have to do to really understand the folks that are struggling to get going right now is we have to go back like years in the past and put ourselves in that situation. So I try to do that recently. I was like, you know what? I didn't see success. Like I couldn't see the path to that thing. I knew that I probably could do it. I have belief in myself, but like what I wish I did, and I think I went fast, but if I wanted to go really fast, like I would be envisioning this, all of it, like the life that I would be living, the view of my bank account on the computer, if that's what I want, like the things that I wanted to get for my wife or my kids, or the trip that we wanted to go on. Like I need to see it and like feel it and believe it. And then like nothing will stop me. So people talk about their why a lot. And I think most of the time they're full of crap. Like they say, it's my family, it's these things. Like that's a deep hole that I'm more than willing to go into at some point if we need to. But like they say these things, but it's like when I'm talking to the high level clients that I have, it's like, if you had $10 million in your bank account right now, or $50 million in your bank account right now, would you stay at home all day and play with your kids? And they're like, no, I wouldn't. Like I say, all right, well, what would you do? They're like, well, I'd keep doing what I'm doing because I really love that. Like, all right, well, then that's really not, I mean, it's probably part of it. They're probably part of the equation. But if you wouldn't stay home and change the diapers and take them to school or just homeschool them or whatever, then that's probably not the thing that's driving you to do whatever you're doing right now. Like having them be able to do the things that they want, when they want, with who they want, those kind of things, fine. But it also includes work, because if you wouldn't give it up with 10 or 50 or $100 million in the bank, then you're not going to give it up. And that's okay. But let's get real about what's driving you. And I think when we get to that, like for most people, they don't know what's driving them. Even successful, high-level successful entrepreneurs don't understand.
Well, have you ever read the book The Gap in the Gain from Dan Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So
there was a white paper on that before the book. Really? This is amazing. Yeah.
So he says, and maybe it wasn't him that started it, but I love Dan Sullivan. But he says that basically, like for entrepreneurs, I mean, when I first started and left my teaching job to become a real estate agent, I knew my why. It was 1,000%. I was like where you said, it was like do or die, right? Like husband left, new girlfriend's coming up, picking up my kids, driving my car. They're gone. Bank accounts are totally drained. We just bought a new house. I just left my full-time teaching job, and I was like, oh my God, it's like do or die, right? I had to make it work. So my why, my absolute must have to make this work was, I got to keep my kids in this house. I got to put food on the table. It's me or nothing, right? That was the why. Well, now it's like and Dan will say, you don't always, as high level entrepreneurs, we don't always have to have a why. Like, what's my why now? Well, I love people. I mean, but if I love people as much, I would just give it away for free, which they wouldn't do it then. But it's like, I don't even know what my why is now. Like my why, I really, really do want to make an impact on the world. I want to help people. I want to like just make a huge difference. I want to leave a legacy. But it's like, it's not like, oh, my kids are gonna, I can't feed my kids. So I think at different areas in your life and at different areas, levels of success, your why changes. And you might not necessarily even always have one sometimes, because I wouldn't be able to tell you what mine is now.
Yeah, but I would. I can tell what yours is. It's growth and contribution. That's it. You want to give back to this community, your people. Like you want to serve the people. You work your butt off. Like I've never seen anybody work as like, I mean, you care so much. You're like, I don't care. I don't feel well. I'm going on. If I can't talk, I'm going on. Like I have to do this. I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's not about the money anymore. And you're right. Like when I started, it was about the money. And now I know what it's about. It's about those people. And I'll tell you, I did this 7 levels of why exercise.
I love that.
I just did it recently. And I found, I mean, mine is very primal. It's like the fact that I am afraid to die. I got to a place, really dark place. I'm afraid to die and not leave a stamp on this world somehow to that like people will be impacted and remember however I've helped them.
Yeah.
And now I'm on like this mission to help as many people as possible, because the cool thing is people are doing more than I did. Like with what we have in our coaching and like they're like, you have like the sensei in karate, right? They're like eclipsing that person. Like we have a guy who's building these like luxury short-term rentals over at Bear Lake. And I mean, this dude is going to be 10 times the entrepreneur that I ever was. Right? Never will be. And I'm like, wow, like to be part of that story, he has the potential to go on and change the world at even a higher level than me. And so,
But that's
and just,
so cool because that's what you're creating and that's what you wanted to create.
yes. And so I think that's like, you go from a place of needs, it's Maslow's hierarchy, it's all the things that you could talk to, but it's like, you had this in the beginning. For me, it was like, I need a little bit of financial freedom. And I don't want to ask permission to go on vacation anymore from the military. And I don't want to be deployed, and I want to be home with my family. And then I got home with my family a little bit more, and I realized, wow, I got this like entrepreneur bug that I actually really love. And these people understand me. And I was like this, I call it, I was like a closet entrepreneur. Like I've been in there the whole time, going back from selling candy at school, but I never realized that I worked for the government, for the man, for a very long time. And it was just like caged up. And when it got unleashed, I was like, oh man, game on. If I found this when I was in my 20s, I would have been really dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, now I'm, in my 40s as an entrepreneur, loving every single thing that I get to do. I lose money in the farm and farmers market, but I get to help all of these like stay-at-home moms that are creating side businesses to sell at the market. They're making more money. Like it's so cool to see that. And I spend my time there when I should be doing something that's $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 an hour.
Yeah,
but
you get the cool thing is that your family's a part of that and they love it, and it's like you spend time with them. It's so much more.
It's life. We're living life and just enjoying the ride. And at some point you get to that place. And so I think everybody is in a different spot where wherever you are, if you need to make a couple bucks or you need to do the next deal, or, you got to join the coaching program because you have this calling that you can do more and you're playing small and you want to grow, and you see somebody else who's got the life that you want and the business that you want, and they're willing to coach you on it, go do it. Like do it, but put everything you got into it. Like don't make it plan B or plan C or plan D. Make it plan A and just get rid of B, C, D, and E. Like get rid of it all.
Like no matter what, just you got to make it work. And that's just how, that's how I see.
And when you say yes and you go all in, you got to do that on a regular basis. You can't do it once and expect it to work on you. You've got to go all in all the time. You got to envision success. You got to envision that every single time you see it, you make a commitment to this thing that you're going to do. You have to reaffirm that commitment on a regular basis. Every single week, you need to recommit. Like you're always committing to something. You're always committing back to it. And the second that you stop doing that, you make this covenant, right? This agreement, just like if you go to church and you take the sacrament, you're making a covenant that I will be better. Like you're taking the bread and you're taking the cup and you're saying, you know what? This week, I move a little bit closer. And you're reaffirming, that's the covenant and the commitment that you make with God. And it's the same thing in your business. Just, you got to recommit all the time. And so the people that are dropping out of the coaching program after 5 months are saying like, hey, this isn't for me, or like, they're just not making that commitment over and over and over again. It's one-time commitment that fades over time. If you go to church one time a year, you're not making that commitment every single week. And I think it's really important.
Not just in coaching. It's like, it's in life. It's in their business. It's with everything, It's so
Do you remember the event that we went to? We just went to a mastermind meeting in Boise, right?
Yes.
And what did I say? I said, I feel like the pendulum is swinging away, like it's swinging towards business, away from my wife, right? And we're having some trouble. Maybe we're kind of like going back to where we were like a year or two ago. And so in that moment, I said like, okay, it's for me to fix. This is for me to fix. It's my fault. It's for me to fix. I'm taking ownership. I went home from that event. I was home for a day and a half. And I said, I'm going to do everything that I can in that day and a half to move us closer together. And I did. I was like, we're going to do these. We're going to go on a date. We're going to spend time together. I'm going to make her feel really sexy, really hot. Like it was an awesome day and a half, right? Which I'm sure you can imagine. And then when I left, she came to Cancun and I picked it up right where I left it off, right? And now I can just see a totally different person in my house. She's totally different because she feels loved. She feels cared for. She feels beautiful. Like all of the things that I stopped doing after I was doing for like a year, I just said, well, like I shouldn't have to do that all the time. Yeah, you should. You should. And so now I've just made that commitment. I took the step and it's incredible. Like your life, your business, your relationships, your friendships, your family, like your religion, your faith, like all these things. They're all it's
way.
all the same thing. Recommit, make that commitment. It's so important.
So true. And Bill and I had this conversation, what he's talking about right now, in the car, and he's like, I just got to commit to doing it. Like, him and his wife were, my husband and I were going through the same thing, and I've done the exact same thing. Like Bill, I was like, okay, like I've got to recommit to this. I've got to make it my focus, make it my number one, not look back, just go forward. And it's been like amazing too. And where we were at just, a couple weeks ago. So it's amazing. It's amazing what you can do when you actually really put your mind to something and you commit to it and you work towards it, and you don't there's no alternative but for that thing that you are committing to doing. And again, reassessing, recommitting, re-striving forward. Bill, we got to wrap up here, but
one more second. One thing, in a very short period of time too. That's the most important thing that I want to put a stamp on here. In a very short period of time, you can make that commitment and make a change. So I'm talking about like flipping a relationship on its head, like 180 degrees in a day and a half. And it's all it takes.
And not only that, it's like doing the thing, right? It's like, okay, I'm committing to it, but I'm also going to do the things that it takes, and I'm going to keep doing them.
Yep. But what I'm saying is you're hearing from me and Krista that this happened in a very short period of time. It's not perfect. And there's always going to be things that I can do better, or we can get a little bit closer. But in a short period of time, just a couple of weeks, we were together 2 weeks ago, that we both made that decision, and you see progress over a very short period of time. That is what I think is amazing. It happened in your business. It's small actions built up over time that compound on each other that can produce massive results for you.
And that's all massive results are. They're little things put together consistently over time that equals massive results. Yep. Bill, I always love our chats. We should do this like once a month. We have to, because it's like, and just record our conversations. We have the best conversations. It's so good. But I am proud of you. I watched you make that commitment in the car. I'm driving home from the mastermind that night, and I was like, we both had the talk, and we both made the commitment, and we've noticed very, very quickly some massive results, which I am happy about for you and for me. So thank you so much for this hour with me. Can you do me a favor? I always have everyone lead with one thing. And by the way, listeners, thank you so much for your time. It means so much to us. Like, nothing's more valuable than your time. So for you to spend it with Bill and I, it just means the world to me. And I hope you're just as fired up as I am about this conversation. But Bill, how would you like to leave?
Oh my gosh, this was so awesome. I would say the biggest thing is I want to leave you with this. Just whatever you want to do, that big goal that you have, whatever it is for you. If it's getting better with your spouse, like getting a little bit closer to your spouse, it's moving a little bit deeper into your faith, it's building that friendship back again, it's being forgiving a family member or a friend, and remembering what it was like 10 years ago. If it's building your business, if it's making more money, if it's quitting your job, whatever it is, like picture it in your mind that it's already done. Where are you? How does it feel? Who's with you? When is it? And picture it over and over and over and over again. And then take the action. Like everybody just says, take massive action. It's like, for what? It's for that. Like, that's what it's for. And if you use that to fuel you, you'll take the action you'll find the person that you need to find to get you there as a guide, which, if you're listening to this in your business, it's 100% Krista, right? You'll find them, you will commit, you will go all in, and you will take the action that's needed to get there, because it's already done. Like, the action is just the thing that needs to be done to get to the place that's already in your mind. And your mind is stronger than anything else, your willpower, all that stuff. So I'll leave you with that. Like, picture it. It's there. Who are you with? What does it feel like? Where are you? Who's with you? How much money do you have? What does it look like? And you'll be able to take the action. Reverse engineer your success.
Ooh, no excuses. There's so much research on visualization. I'm writing a book right now called Stop, Snap, and Switch. And I'm writing that part of it, like how the brain works and how the brain by visualizing it gets you what you want. Okay, I'm going to just tell you this one story really quickly since you just ended it like that. So there was this study, and they took there's basketball players, right? So for 21 days, 20 days, for 20 days, there was 3 groups of people. One group made shots for every single day for 20 days in a row. They actually shot the ball. Another group did nothing. Another group visualized themselves taking shots every single day for 20 days. At the end of the 20 days, the group that had actually made the actual shots physically improved by 24%. The group that did nothing improved by 0%. The group that visualized it and saw it in their mind improved by 23%. There was just a 1% difference from actually doing it and actually visualizing it. There's so much scientific research about visualization and the mind. Like I could go on for days. I'm literally obsessed like a tweaker about it. Everyone, thank you for your time. Bill, always so much love. Thank you so much for your time, guys and gals. He is a multimillionaire, super, super successful. You want to learn how to flip houses? You want to learn about investing? Bill Allen is your guy. Go to sevenfigureflipping.com, Bill.
Yeah.
Sevenfigureflipping.com. And the name of your podcast is also Seven Figure Flipping, correct?
Yep. That's it.
And he has a book called Seven Figure Flipping Secrets.
Seven Figure Flipping Underground.
Seven Figure Flipping Underground. Okay, Phil, we love you. Everyone, make it a great. Thanks for being here, and make sure that it's not enough just to listen. You've got to actually implement, and we will see you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for watching my video. You can learn more about how to be a successful real estate professional by watching other videos that I have. And be sure to subscribe to my channel. And as always, make it a great home selling and buying day.